to Discograffiti, the deep dive podcast for music obsessives that gives freaks like you and me the chance to connect with a brotherhood obsessed with rating the entire discography of every single artist and band that ever mattered. I'm your host, Dave Gebroe, and with 3 new episodes each week, you're going to gain a comprehensive knowledge of an act's history and output in the time it takes to listen to one album. Each new guest swings a hard left into an area you either had no idea you needed to know about, or know all about and can't believe you're not alone out there. And in this episode, we'll be turning our spray cans on Spirit! Psst, along with our special guest, band biographer Ryan Gabrinetti. This is part 8, covering arguably the last blast of true creative inspiration that exploded out of Randy, California. Here are just a few of the many things that Ryan discusses with Discograffiti in this podcast. A cherry-picking overview of Randy's second attempt to launch his solo career, a period covered by the 4-CD Euro-American box set, which includes a handful of buried gems you'd certainly otherwise never learn about, the events that led to the exhumation of the Potatoland project, why, even though it's not Potatoland proper, it's arguably just as amazing and important for entirely different reasons, how Spirit spent their second and final classic lineup reunion, why 1984 is such a landmark signpost year for Spirit, and an in-depth deep dive on every song off Spirit's Potatoland and the 13th Dream, plus Randy's solo album Euro-American. And away we go then! So after the tour's end in 79, Randy left the group again, and after Spirit's demise, Randy put together another group with the short-lived intent of restarting his solo career. So at that point, was he in Europe when the tour ended?
He moved to London, and he was there on and off for a few years and through like the mid-80s. So this was, I think, his first stint at doing that. And the quote that I recall, and I don't remember who said this, it might have even been himself. You know, he moved to London because, well, you know, if it worked for Jimmy, it might work for me too.
Yeah, right. So I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but there's a box set that came out, a 4-CD box that is called the Euro-American Years, and it goes from 79 to 84, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting in 79, so I really just want to touch on just a few things. In 1979, he was in Kingsway Studios in October 79 in London, and he did demos for 4 songs that are actually pretty strong. You Stole My Heart, California Man, Thinking of You, and Song for Laura. And then, although we're not here yet, Magic Wand, he did a single in LA, and there were sessions for that in 1981. And although overall they're maybe not as strong as that batch of 79 material, there's some good stuff. Reeling in the Night, Lonnie by the Sea, Shattered Dreams, Rock of Ages, and Magic Wand itself, which is a Beatley classic.
It's a great song.
That had hit potential in spades. And again, just a lost opportunity because, I mean, what a track. And so I do want to point out that this box is a whole lot of stuff. But if you really are into Spirit and you just get carried away, some standouts that you should look for are, especially on disc number 1, the 4 1979 outtakes, the 5 1981 outtakes, and then there are 2 outtakes from 82, Whispers from Heaven, and a really strong one called Overloaded Ship Sink, which I think is an absolute classic.
And then,
cool. And then a 1983 outtake called Write You a Letter. And then if you want to explore some live sets, the April 3rd, 1981 North Carolina set is the live pick of the litter. You know, Randy, while he's in England, a fan presented him with a petition of 5,000 signatures requesting the release of the Potatoland album, and consequently, in 1981, Randy released an overdubbed selection of tracks from the original album alongside several unrelated songs that dated from the late 70s. And contrary to the intention of the original sessions, it was released under the imprimatur of Spirit in the US by Rhino Records, which at that point was a nascent archival label with ties to Dr. Demento, and in Britain by Beggar's Banquet Records. And it was the only Spirit album other other than Sardonicus to chart in Britain, which is amazing to think about. It peaked at number 40 in the UK album chart and received airplay on BBC Radio 1. So in 1981, The Adventures of Captain Copper and Commander Cassidy in Potatoland. Still, even though it's not Potatoland, it's amazing this thing came out.
It's a feat of will. And I mean, this is what fans are for too. Because like it really wouldn't have happened if there weren't people who were really persistent about having Potatoland released.
I gotta ask you, Randy talks about a sequel album, both at the very end of the record itself and during the interview that's included with the complete Potatoland reissue. I'm guessing that the Revenge of the French Fries, since this wasn't as successful as he was hoping it would be, that he dropped the idea, or was he just joking about it?
I would probably defer to Bruce Pates or Mick Skidmore on that one. I haven't heard or seen anything about a sequel. I'm sure that he had the concept, but I would assume that by the time that album had come out, the Rhino release in 81, he was probably, this is again right in the middle of him trying to relaunch his solo career for a second time. Yeah. So like this is another case of like he just can't seem to shake Spirit, because like Potatoland is released as a Spirit album. It wasn't originally intended to be that, and like they got these tours because promoters would tell him like, we don't want a Randy California tour, but we'll definitely take a Spirit tour. And so it's like, by this point too, he's not making a lot of money. The further on we go, it's just like the opportunities are really starting to dwindle. So like,
also in a lot of ways, this feels like a signpost record, not just the fact that it came out, but it really is feeling like he's putting everything he has into it. I mean, this first side, you could hear this guy, the blood, sweat, and tears he put into these things being commercial. Even though the idea of putting all these gleaming pop songs on the A side of a batshit crazy concept album on the B side is completely nuts. To him, he probably had been living with it for so long, it didn't seem nuts. It felt like just another day at the office. So he didn't see the craziness behind it. But, in a lot of ways, it feels like this is an end of some sorts. All right, that concludes your free sneak peek into today's bonus episode. If you want to hear the rest of it, just visit patreon.com/Discograffiti and either purchase this podcast by itself for $4, or better yet, subscribe at the major tier and get access to Discograffiti's 3 weekly episodes. That's Friday's main episode, the Sunday Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast. That's our podcast within a podcast featuring Patreon members as guests, and your Tuesday bonus episode. Please keep in mind this is entirely how I support my wife and 7-year-old son, so don't risk feeling badly about yourself by not supporting Discograffiti. Become a member so you don't miss a single thing at patreon.com/Discograffiti.